Day 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft is coming up here in just a few hours, so we have another loaded show coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you, and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up, why the Philadelphia Eagles moved up one spot to 31st overall to take Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama. We're going to go through a Day 2 mock draft with rounds 2 and 3 taking place tonight, and also take a gander at the top players available. And then also, what an honor, we will be joined and talk Eagles with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Stay tuned for that interview on the back half of the show. Before we accomplish all of that, a reminder. We were live last night. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. A tremendous night here on the program. We're going to run it back once again. Rounds 2 and 3 tonight of the 2025 NFL Draft, as I mentioned. Our show will get underway at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. So we'll see you there, and hit that sub button. So the Eagles last night moved up to 31st overall to take linebacker edge rusher Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama. And there are a lot of people across the NFL, a lot of people who cover the NFL who are saying, really? Another great player fell to the Eagles once again, and they didn't have to trade up all that much, only one spot to get one of the top prospects in this draft class. Now, some people, I've seen you in the comment section, some of you have reached out to me on social media, you've been asking this question. Chase, why did the Eagles trade up and move up one spot, giving up a draft pick? The Kansas City Chiefs weren't going to take Jihaad Campbell. First of all, you don't know that. Second of all, the Eagles had 4 fifth-round picks. They still have 3 fifth-round picks. And Campbell was a top 10 player on their big board. Last week, we talked about it here on the show, what Howie Roseman said. We don't have that many first-round grades on prospects. They had a first-round grade on Campbell by far, and they looked at him as one of the top 10 players in this entire draft. This is another classic Howie Roseman move. He thought about trading up further. We know that the Eagles are aggressive in trying to get their guys who they really covet. Instead, all they have to do is give up one of 4 fifth-round picks later in this draft. They get a top 10 player in their eyes, and that is incredible value. Jihaad Campbell, I'm not sure if you saw the video. It was great, though. I shared it on my X page, at Chase_Senior. He was in attendance in Green Bay, Wisconsin for the draft, and he's running down the tunnel, all pumped up, celebrating. He smacked that Eagles logo on his way to dapping up Roger Goodell, and then on his conference call with the Philadelphia media members, all smiles as he's joining the defending Super Bowl champions. And here's a look at what he's going to look like in an Eagles uniform. We'll see which jersey number he wears. He wore 14 at Alabama last year. That was occupied by Kenneth Gainwell. He's across the state in Pittsburgh right now. And I think Campbell has the potential to be a fantastic player. A lot of NFL scouts have said that Campbell is one of the top players in this draft. And this is why the Eagles took him and moved up one spot to nab him at 31. First of all, incredible value with the 31st overall pick. Philadelphia and Howie Roseman, he even said it himself, they could not believe that he was still there. They were trying to trade up earlier in the 20s, according to reports with the Packers. Howie said maybe a trade with the Chargers. They couldn't. Howie got boxed out, so they stay put at 32. Then they make a trade call with the team that they beat in the Super Bowl. They move up to 31 and get a top 10 player on their big board. The Eagles think that he is elite, and they love his positional versatility. He could play edge. He can play linebacker. He has blazing sideline-to-sideline speed. With the way that he moves and the velocity in which he plays with, he is a heat-seeking missile. He's a very aggressive player who craves physicality. There's a viral clip of him hitting Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, to the point where Dart's helmet came off. Fittingly, Jackson Dart got drafted by the Giants in the first round, and they're probably going to see each other for years to come. I also think this can be another chess piece for Vic Fangio. Think about how he used Nakobe Dean, how he used Zach Bond as an off-ball linebacker, really good against the run, plugging holes, and Campbell can do that, but he utilized those players as blitzers and as edge rushers from time to time. That was the background of Zach Bond and how the Saints primarily used him as an outside linebacker and edge rusher. And Campbell has that to his game. And this is a player with a lot of pedigree. Best Alabama defender in 2024 as he had that breakout year. He was recruited to Bama as one of the top edge rushers in the country coming out of high school. And so that versatility leads to him having a good feel for the game, having good instincts. We also don't know what the future is of Nakobe Dean. He's coming off a very serious knee injury and going into the final year of his deal. In 2024 was the only season he stayed healthy, then he got hurt. And I think that the Eagles can use Campbell like Bond, have him play alongside Bond because I do think he has coverage skills and ability. And the Eagles put an emphasis on him because he impacts the pass game. Getting to the quarterback, covering the pass. The shoulder injury is definitely a concern. Had a labrum surgery with a linebacker who plays as hard as he does and just landing on that shoulder, that is an issue. There's some chatter that he could miss time during his rookie year. Here's the thing with where the Eagles are at, though, ladies and gentlemen. They're so talented, so deep with so much talent, they don't need to rush him back. And the play style. Let's talk about that here for a moment. This is a player who Eagles fans will absolutely love. He plays with swagger. He plays with confidence. He will try to rip the soul out of your body. He will run right through you. He will run with receivers, running backs, and tight ends. And then he will hit the opposing quarterback. And in speaking of that background as an edge rusher, the Eagles definitely looked at some of the measurables. And let's compare Jihaad Campbell in the pre-draft to Micah Parsons and Abdul Carter, who Howie Roseman mentioned specifically as players at Penn State who were off-ball linebackers, and then they turned into elite edge rushers. Campbell, 6'3", 235, 80-inch wingspan, 4.52 40-yard dash, relative athletic score of 9.88, 5 sacks. Micah Parsons, 6'3", 246, 78-inch wingspan, 4.36 40-yard dash. My gosh, he flew in the pre-draft. 9.59 relative athletic score, 5 sacks. Abdul Carter, 6'3", 250, 79-inch wingspan, a 4.52 40-yard dash. Identical to Jihaad Campbell, injured in the pre-draft with the foot and a shoulder, so no relative athletic score there. He had 12 sacks, but here's the thing. Jihaad Campbell, compared to those players, had fewer pass rushing opportunities. Of note, on that note, Campbell's lone meeting with the Eagles was with the outside linebackers coach and defensive end coach, not as an off-ball middle linebacker. Now, there's a lot of talk in the media that he's only going to be used as an edge. Why would you limit him to just that? I think that he can be used in a variety of areas. But what's interesting is what Roseman said about Campbell, Parsons, and Carter. This is a guy who is recruited from IMG at Alabama as an edge, hand in the dirt edge rusher. They had some injuries at Alabama. They played him off ball. You see his explosiveness and his speed. And really, it's kind of interesting. And we talked about this a lot. You see Penn State, give them a lot of credit for what they've done. They've had guys off the ball move to edge rushers. He's talking about Parsons and Carter. Obviously, their last two guys who have been drafted really high, they started off the ball and they moved to edge. And so when you factor in the player, where the Eagles got him, what he can bring to the table, the versatility, how well he played last year, my grade for Jihaad Campbell, mostly based upon the value and the player who the Eagles got, who I thought was a top 15 guy. They thought he was a top 10 player. It is an A grade for the Birds on night one of the 2025 NFL Draft. You grade it. The pick of Jihaad Campbell. What do you think? A, B, C, D, or F? This poll question is also available on the community tab on the YouTube channel, so be sure to share your opinions with us. Looking ahead to tonight, rounds 2 and 3. Eagles have 2 picks here, but as we know, Howie Roseman could try to maneuver up the draft board again. Eagles are on the clock, round 2, 64 overall, and then round 3, 96 overall. A lot of players to watch for the Eagles, and this is where we shift gears to some mock draft thoughts. Nick Emanwori, unbelievable athlete at the safety position, for South Carolina. I don't love how he over-pursues on a lot of plays. I don't love his feel for the game. But as an athlete, he had a perfect 10, relative athletic score. Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Different player, plays more upon feel. Kevin Winston, partially torn ACL last year, another player from Penn State. But the length, athleticism, and the character, a lot of scouts think that he is NFL built. Will Johnson is arguably a top 15 player in this class, but barely tested in the pre-draft. Unbelievable ball skills and a big-time playmaker at corner when he can play off, read the eyes of the quarterback, and read the wide receiver. He's still available in the second round. Some chatter that he was running a 4.6 in some private workouts with the 40. That does scare me because he already lacks some of that catch-up speed if he gets beat. Trey Amos doesn't lack that out of Ole Miss. He's a 4.4 guy. Jacob Parrish is a 4.3 player, more of an inside corner, but ball skills, anticipation, plays bigger than his size, a lot of production as far as PBUs. He does have experience playing inside, outside. Reminds me a lot of Diamador Lenore of the Niners. Andrew McCuba, the safety out of Texas, he was asked to do a lot within that Texas program alongside Jahdae Barron, who got drafted in the first round by Denver. That's a great Denver defense who took Barron. I like McCuba as a player for Philadelphia. Howie has never taken a safety in the top 50 picks. A lot of buzz behind the Eagles potentially taking Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU, to replace Dallas Goedert. I think he fits exactly what the Eagles covet in the tight end spot. I've had him going to the Eagles in a couple of my mock drafts. Elijah Arroyo, maybe a better athlete, more of a seam stretching tight end as compared to Taylor, who has a diverse route tree, better hands and catch radius. Harold Fannin, this is of note, at Bowling Green, he played under Scott Loeffler, who is now the Eagles quarterbacks coach. And Harold Fannin had more than 100 catches last year and is a really interesting player. I worry about the burst and speed, but I think that he can be a good weapon at the next level. Terrence Ferguson, another one of these tight ends in this deep tight end class whose name could be called today. I do like the Nebraska tight end, maybe a little bit later for Philadelphia. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State. He's big. He can go up and get it. He's physical, ran well, can come down with 50-50 balls, and he loves blocking as a wide receiver. Isaiah Bond can fly out of Texas. Some concerns there legality-wise. Alec Ayumanner, 4.4 player. Physical, likes to block, soft-spoken off the field, plays nasty on it. Just go look at what he did against Travis Hunter when they were matched up against one another. He was unbelievable. Nick Scorton, the Eagles brought him in a pre-draft top 30 visit. Defensive end out of Texas A&M. Shamar Turner, another player from that Texas A&M defense who's going to hear his name called in the first 3 rounds. He's a gifted defensive tackle. I'm a fan of T.J. Sanders, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Olu Aladehu, edge rusher, UCLA, former off-ball guy who's turned into an edge. Eagles selection of Jihaad Campbell might take him off their board. I'm a huge fan, too, of Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. Some people make a big deal about how he's 24 years old. I don't care. He could play. Donovan Ezaraku, defensive end, long, great production last year at BC with 16-plus sacks. Charles Grant started playing football his junior year of high school, wrestling background, played in a run-heavy scheme at William & Mary, small school guy, but he's an excellent player who could be a great developmental piece for Jeff Stoutland. Tate Ratledge, interior offensive lineman out of Georgia. He ran so well at the combine. He's nasty. Good, consistent production for him. Anthony Belton, offensive tackle out of NC State, a mountain of a man. Marcus Bow played a little tackle in college. I think he's more of a guard in this league. Eagles brought him in on a pre-draft visit. And then Landon Jackson is kind of a physical freak. He's not twitchy, doesn't have great bend, but he's a big, Hulk-sized defensive end who transferred from LSU to Arkansas. And so with a mock draft, those are the types of players who I'm looking at for Philadelphia. They're at 64, and so that's at the end of the second. They're also at the end of the third, but they have a lot of picks in next year's draft and still some valuable picks in this year's draft where they are a threat to potentially trade up if they want to get a player who they really like or if somebody starts to fall who the Eagles are big fans of. Howie Roseman, got to look out for him in being aggressive. Coming up next here on the show, what an honor it is. Very excited to welcome on Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. He's a diehard Eagles fan. We'll talk to him coming up just around the corner. But first, today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, sponsored by our friends at Mando, the best whole-body deodorant that you can use anywhere. It's available at places like Target, Walmart, other popular retail stores, and you get 72-hour odor control with Mando. Get $5 off the starter pack by using the code CHAT at shopmando.com. Aluminum-free, dye-free, cruelty-free, baking soda-free, vegan, and doctor-developed. What's cool about this is that it was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO is being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor up to 72 hours. And a couple of different styles of deodorant that you can get. Solid deodorant stick. You can get spray deodorant. And I just love everything that America's #1 whole-body deodorant formula has to offer. Again, you can find it at popular retail stores like Walmart and Target. There's also cream tube deodorant, depending on what specifically you like. And you can get $5 off their starter pack by using our exclusive code CHAT. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use the code CHAT at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. And now we shift gears to our interview with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. So prior to me coming to Chat Sports, I was actually a news reporter and sports reporter at WNEP up in Scranton for one of the largest local television stations in the country. And I covered a lot of news events, and that included politics, local sports, Penn State football. And so at that time, a few years ago at this point, I had to keep tabs on what Josh Shapiro was doing as the then Pennsylvania Attorney General. And here we are in 2025. I've since worked my way up in sports broadcasting. You're working your way up in politics, and it's our honor to welcome on the Pennsylvania Governor, Josh Shapiro, here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Thank you so much for joining us here during the draft.
Chase, it's awesome to be with you, man. Congrats on your success and a good NEPA boy making it big in sports radio is pretty cool.
For
Congrats.
Sure. Yeah, and I know you're a diehard Eagles fan. You grew up in Montgomery County, and from time to time you'll call into Sports Radio 94 WIP to talk Eagles, and you did a sit-down interview the other day with Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. I encourage people to check that out on your YouTube channel.
By the way, a NEPA guy. He's from Dunmore.
He's from Dunmore, the neighboring town of Scranton. I'm actually from Westchester, but I spent 3.5 years up there in Scranton. But I'm curious, you know, you have Vic Fangio on, you've hopped on some radio shows, you've done some podcasts. What is it about that you enjoy from a personal standpoint, and why is it important to kind of show people, hey, I'm not just a politician. We don't have to just talk state issues. I can talk shop and talk ball as well.
I mean, first of all, I just love sports, right? So it's just who I am. It's how I grew up. I grew up as a 12, 13-year-old kid. I remember calling into sports radio for the first time. This is way back when it was on like 6:10 a.m. I don't even know if you remember that.
I do.
But it's just like how I grew up. I'm not a big sort of TV watcher or what have you, but what I will do is when I get a minute, sit down on the couch, or if I'm in the truck with the iPad or whatever, and watch some live sports, ideally a Philly game, but if, whatever's on, NBA, playoff basketball right now is on, obviously the Sixers are not in it. So I think the first part of my answer is I just love it, and it's what I've been doing my whole life. Second, I enjoy people, and I enjoy talking to people about things that are not politics and not government. I mean, I'm always happy to answer those questions. Part of my responsibility as governor, be accountable to you and answer those questions. But I enjoy getting on and mixing it up with folks about something that's not part of the day-to-day work. And then third, I guess, there are times where I'll call into sports radio where they will ask me a question about something going on in the world or some decision I've made or, whatever the case may be, where it allows me to talk about something with a different audience. And I think it's incumbent upon me as governor to meet people where they are. And a whole lot of people are listening to your podcast on sports radio or consuming content online about their favorite sports team. So I love it. I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy meeting people where they are.
That's awesome, and I love that authenticity. And speaking of your Eagles fandom, I was at the Super Bowl parade in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
What a magical sight, as you know. And I caught the Eagles at the start of the parade by the sports complex. Then I caught the subway back up to City Hall. Incredible to see
amazing.
millions upon millions of Eagles fans all there celebrating the Eagles' triumphant Super Bowl victory. What a performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you see the floats go by, it's cool to wave to the players, coaches, members of the organization. I can't lie. I have a really good arm. I threw a beer about 40 yards right on a dime to Jalen Hunt. He dropped it. I was about to throw another one. Then I saw that's Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
We got to keep that face clean. I can't hit him with the beer like what happened to Howie Roseman. What was that experience like to be on that Eagles parade float? That is something that everybody dreams of. Nobody has that opportunity. And you got to experience the sights, the sounds, and
It was
taking the
amazing.
Lombardi Trophy up Broad Street to the Art Museum.
It was amazing. First off, as a kid who grew up in the lean years, not seeing parades like that, not bringing home championships, it was just awesome as a fan. I was really honored as governor to be invited to join the players and to be on that bus and to float through our city. Man, it was unbelievable. Folks were rows and rows and rows deep. I mean, there were millions of people there, over a million people there, and it was just awesome to see the pure joy on their faces. It was awesome to see how generationally different they were, from toddlers to seniors. It was just amazing. Now, I will tell you, it's guys like you, Chase, that are a problem, because I noticed what you did there. When you were talking about throwing a beer, you were going overhand, right? You guys are dangerous. That's why Howie took it in the head. I probably caught about 20 beers, but most of the time, they were like, yo, Gov. And they kind of soft tossed it to me. And I caught them. I can't tell you I chugged every one of them, but I caught them. With Howie, they fired one in there like that and caught him right in the head. So when we got off the bus around the back of the art museum, we were all actually talking about, man, how about those Birds fans firing those beers at us? And I saw Howie bleeding out of his head. I said, what the hell happened to you? Because I got hit with a beer can. So, man, Philly's got to be more careful next time. We need Howie Roseman's brain to be totally intact and totally protected for this season and many, many more.
Yeah, because we need him to continue to crush it in the NFL and be one of the best general
Right.
managers in the sport. I have to say, I was a few rows back, as you said, so I had to put some velocity behind it to get that beer to the parade float. A few more questions for you. Just with this 2024 season, 14 wins in the regular season, a dominant playoff run, and then they pull off the impossible. I thought that they were going to beat the Chiefs, but they throttled Kansas City. Didn't blitz once, got all those pressures and sacks
Yeah.
on Patrick Mahomes. When you think back to this Super Bowl winning season as the Birds win their second Lombardi Trophy since 2017, what are you going to remember the most about this 2024 Eagles run?
There's so many different pieces of it, but the 2-2 start, the bye week, wondering, could Nick keep the locker room together? Could he keep all the guys believing? Could they stay on course? Obviously, we know the answer to that. That's a sign of great leadership by him, by Jalen Hurts, by all the guys on the team. I thought that was really, really pivotal. I thought when they got on a run, I remember the year before they were on a run too, and then they collapsed with whatever it was, Chase. I think 5, 6 games left to go
Yep.
in the season. Getting through that hump too, whatever sort of was lingering in their minds from the season before. And then I just saw how professional and organized they were with a game plan going into each and every game in the playoffs. It's interesting. I thought Vic Fangio had a game plan to not blitz in the Super Bowl, that's the way they were going to contain Mahomes. I had the chance to interview him the other day, good Dunmore guy. I thought it was important to highlight Pennsylvanians who do great things, and Vic is one of them. I asked him that question, and Fangio said that, they kind of adjusted on the fly. They realized it was working, and so they kept doing it. I sort of thought that they had planned it that way. I think it was a little bit more organic. But whatever it was, these guys came in with plans, adapted them as the games went on, stayed super professional and workmanlike about it, and really focused on the end result, which was winning a Super Bowl. And they did it. They accomplished it. They're a terrific team.
One of the takeaways from your interview with Vic Fangio, you're close with Howie Roseman, and you were talking to him. How do you think you're going to rebound from losing 6 of 7 to end the 2023 campaign?
Yeah.
And he said definitively, we're going to be fine. We're hiring Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
You have a good relationship with Howie. I'm just curious, how did that come about? Do you have any good Howie Roseman stories you can share with us?
You know, first off, I'm not going to get into our private conversations, but I will tell you that I try, the relationship Howie and I have is I try not to talk too much shop with him. He tries not to talk too much shop with me, right? We're both in obviously different professions, but I respect the work he does. Obviously, I'm a diehard Eagles fan, but I'm not calling him up every day saying, who are you going to pick here? What are you going to do there? We've bonded over lots of other things beyond politics in sports, and I appreciate that relationship that we have. The anecdote I was sharing in that interview with Fangio was just to say, that Howie was confident, he had a plan, he knew what he was doing, and Fangio was a huge part of that when they brought him in before they added some more players, before they added the other pieces. And I just think Howie, as a leader, as an executive, is a terrific guy, someone a lot of people could learn from, even those who are not in the world of sports, as just a guy who believes in himself, believes in his ability, surrounds himself with a terrific team, group of executives there, and works harder than anybody else to deliver the ultimate result. In his business, the ultimate result is a Super Bowl win.
It's probably best that you both stay in your lane. If he's giving you political insight and some things that he could have to offer, and you're talking football with him and saying, you got to move up for Jihaad Campbell. I like the pick, but that would certainly be interesting. Last one for you. Howie, he's a magician with the cap and configuring all of these contracts. It's part of the reason why he's the best GM in football, in my opinion, and why he's been able to put together this great roster. A lot of the core players on this Eagles team are locked up through 2028, 2029.
Yeah.
The future is bright for the Eagles. I personally believe the future is bright for Josh Shapiro. So I think things are going to look good for the Eagles in 2028, 2029. What does life look like for Governor Josh Shapiro in 2028?
Man, come on, Chase. Why you got to do that to me? We're having such a good
I had to.
I love serving the good people of Pennsylvania. I want to keep doing that for a good long while.
Governor Josh Shapiro, thank you so much for joining us here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to hop on board here.
Thanks, Chase. Good to be with you. Congratulations on all your success.
You as well. Thanks.